This software bug didn't crash a computer. It didn't freeze, it didn't show a blue screen. It quietly gave cancer patients 100 times the lethal dose of radiation, and the machine cheerfully said everything was fine.
And here's the part that still gives me chills. The bug was invisible for months. It only showed up when the operators got good at their jobs. The faster they typed, the more likely they were to kill someone.
Wait, back up. The bug appeared because they got faster? That sounds backwards. You'd think a confident, experienced operator is the safest person in the room.
Exactly. That's the trap. To understand it, we need to talk about the machine itself, a race condition hiding inside it, and a chain of decisions that should never have happened. This is the story of the Therac-25.
So let's set the scene. It's the mid-1980s. The Therac-25 is a radiation therapy machine built by a Canadian company called AECL. It's used to treat cancer, blasting tumors with a precise beam of radiation.
And it was a marvel for its time. It could do two completely different things. A low-power electron beam that goes straight into shallow tumors near the skin. And a high-power X-ray mode for tumors deep inside the body.
Now those two modes are wildly different in power. The electron mode is a gentle dose. The X-ray mode fires a beam that's roughly 100 times more intense, but it does it through a thick metal target that absorbs almost all of it.
Right, and that metal target is the key safety piece. In X-ray mode, the full-power beam slams into the target, and the target converts it into a safe, lower-dose stream of X-rays for the patient.
So picture the danger. What happens if the machine fires that full-power, 100 times beam, but the metal target isn't in place? Then the raw, unfiltered beam hits the patient directly. That's a death ray. And that is exactly what happened.
But here's what made the Therac-25 different from the machines that came before it. The older models, the Therac-6 and Therac-20, had hardware interlocks. Physical fuses and switches that made it physically impossible to fire the beam without the target in place.
And the Therac-25 ripped those out. The engineers decided the software was reliable enough to handle safety on its own. No physical backup. If the code said it was safe, it fired. The software was the only thing standing between the patient and a lethal beam.
And they had a reason to trust it. The software was reused from the older Therac-20. It had a track record. It had been running in hospitals for years with no problems. So why rewrite something that works?
Because, and this is the lesson buried in the whole disaster, code that's safe in one machine is not automatically safe in another. On the Therac-20, the hardware interlocks were silently catching the software's mistakes. The bugs were there the whole time. The hardware just hid them.
Oh, that's nasty. So the old software was buggy too, but nobody ever knew, because the physical safety nets quietly cleaned up after it. Remove the nets, reuse the same buggy code, and suddenly the bug has nothing to stop it.
Now let's get to the actual bug. The race condition. This is the heart of it. And to explain it, I need you to imagine the operator at the console, typing in the treatment settings.
Okay, so the operator sits at a terminal in another room. They type which mode they want, electron or X-ray, and the dose, and then they hit a key to start. Meanwhile, behind the wall, the machine physically moves parts into place.
And those two things happen on different timelines. The software is processing your keystrokes in one task. A separate task is responsible for physically setting up the machine, including swinging that critical metal target into position. Two processes, running at the same time, supposed to stay in sync.
And that, right there, is a race condition. Two pieces of code racing, and the outcome depends on which one finishes first. If they always finished in the same order, you'd never notice. But timing is not guaranteed.
Here's the deadly sequence. Say an operator selects X-ray mode by mistake. The machine starts setting up the high-power configuration, swinging the heavy metal target into place. That setup takes about 8 seconds.
Then the operator realizes the mistake, and quickly hits up, changes it to electron mode, and presses enter to proceed. To them, it's an instant correction. No big deal. The screen updates. Everything looks normal.
But if they made that change within those 8 seconds, before the setup task finished, the software registered electron mode, but the hardware was still mid-swing from the X-ray command. A flag got set, then unset, and the code lost track of reality.
The result? The machine fired the full-power X-ray beam, 100 times the dose, with the metal target not in place. The patient took the raw beam directly. And the screen? It said normal treatment delivered.
And now the faster typing thing finally makes sense. A brand new operator types slowly, fumbling, taking more than 8 seconds. By the time they finish, the setup is done, the timing window is closed, and the bug never fires.
But an experienced operator? They've typed these screens 1,000 times. They fly through it, correcting a mistake in 2 or 3 seconds, right inside that fatal window. The machine punished competence. The better you got at your job, the more dangerous it became.
And the machine's response made it worse. When something went wrong, it didn't say lethal overdose. It showed a cryptic message: malfunction 54, a dose error that could mean too much or too little. Operators saw these vague errors all the time.
So they did what anyone does with a flaky machine that throws constant harmless errors. They hit a key to dismiss it and continued. In some cases, that meant firing the lethal beam into the same patient again. And again.
The victims described it the same way. A patient felt an intense burning, like an electric shock, while the screen said nothing was wrong. One man said it felt like his arm was on fire from the inside. At least 3 people died. Others were horribly injured.
And for a long time, nobody believed it was the machine. AECL insisted an overdose was impossible. It took a determined physicist at one hospital, painstakingly recreating the exact keystroke timing, to finally prove the race condition was real.
So what are the real lessons here, beyond one bad machine? First, a race condition isn't an edge case you can shrug off. It's a bug whose existence depends on timing you don't control. It can hide for years and surface the moment conditions shift.
Second, reused code carries hidden assumptions. That software relied on hardware interlocks it didn't even know existed. Pull the foundation out from under working code, and working code becomes a weapon. Context is part of correctness.
And third, the big one. Never let software be the only thing standing between a person and catastrophe. The Therac-25 is why modern safety-critical systems demand independent hardware interlocks. A physical backstop that doesn't care what the code thinks.
Because software fails. It always will. The question every engineer has to ask isn't just does my code work, it's what happens when it doesn't, and what catches the fall. The Therac-25 paid for that lesson in human lives so the rest of us wouldn't have to.